more than 60 people are now feared dead after the bombing of a school where civilians had been sheltering in eastern Ukraine. Now the Russian attack was on the village of Bilohorivka in the Donbass region. Our correspondent Laura Bicker has the latest.
This was a school in the village of Bilohorivka. It was being used as a shelter when it was hit by an airstrike. Around 60 people are feared dead under this rubble. Russia is stepping up its assault on eastern and southern Ukraine. In Mariupol, they seek out the last Ukrainian fighters holed up in the vast Azovstal steel plant. Keep watching and see how they move, is the command made of this Russian drone operator. There are thought to be around 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers still determined to make one last stand.
We do not have high chances of survival while we would be captured. Yeah, and the surrender for us is unacceptable because we cannot grant such a big gift to the enemy because every person who was captured is the exchange fund.
All the women and children who'd used this plant as a refuge for more than 2 months have been rescued, according to Ukrainian officials. But daily shelling has decimated their once thriving city. The mayor claims those still there are being forced to carry permits to move around, and some men are even being held in camps.
This means that the Russian occupying forces are holding captive more than 100,000 people. They're using them to clear rubble and dead bodies. Our local population is now forced to work for food in the city that has been turned into a ghetto, in my opinion, established by the Russian army.
Centres have been set up to help the tens of thousands of Mariupol families trying to rebuild their shattered lives. 8-year-old Vicky loves it here, but her mum is struggling to forget those harrowing last moments in her hometown.
Planes, missiles, then ships. Everything was on fire around you. People in the streets, torn off limbs. It was tough. It was frightening. I don't want to recall any of that.
Those left behind in Mariupol must make what they can of their war-torn lives. And even amid the scattered ruins of their school, some have found a place to play. Laura Bicker, BBC News, Zaporizhia.
The latest on the battles in the south and the east there. Meanwhile, final preparations have been taking place in Russia ahead of Victory Day tomorrow, when the country will celebrate the defeat of Nazi Germany. There'll be the usual military parade in Moscow's Red Square and other cities, but this year the backdrop is, of course, what's going on here in Ukraine. It'll be a chance to rally people around the flag, but Vladimir Putin is being accused of using the memory of World War II to justify his war. From Moscow, here's our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg.
This time of year, the traffic in Moscow gets rather heavy. It's the final practice for the annual military parade. Victory Day marks the defeat of Hitler's Germany. But this year, Putin's Russia is on the offensive. Rehearsing on Red Square, what Moscow says are paratroopers back from Ukraine. Russia's invasion there is being presented here as another glorious chapter in Russia's history. And so you get this. In the run-up to Victory Day, across Russia, organised displays of the letter Z, the symbol of Russia's offensive in Ukraine. From schools to stallions. At this sports festival outside Moscow, we found lots of Zs. Patriotic PE to support the army. Many here believe the Kremlin's parallel reality, which portrays Russia as a victim, not the aggressor. NATO's pressuring us, says Natalia. We'll fight to the end. They have risen from hell to destroy us, Natasha says. The fascists, the Americans, everyone who is against Russians. But it was President Putin who started this by attacking Ukraine. More than 2 months later, he appears far from victory. He will be hoping that memories of World War II will at least rally Russians behind the Kremlin. The defeat of Nazi Germany was a glorious moment in Russian history. But today, the Kremlin is using that victory, using the past to try to justify the present. It's mobilizing the patriotic fervor of Victory Day to secure public support for Russia's offensive in Ukraine. And that continues. Kremlin critics warn that what Russia is doing now in Ukraine, what much of the world calls a war of conquest, casts a shadow over Russia's great victory in World War II.
This victory, it was for our future. And now we lost our future because of one man, and his name is Vladimir Putin. He stole our future, he stole this victory, he stole our history.
Russians can celebrate the past. It's the future that's uncertain. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.